I watched a long-form biography of the life of Putin yesterday and information about his rise to power, because I thought, if he's so important to Daddy Trump, I should figure out why exactly it is that he keeps licking his boots. And what I realized is it's because Trump knows he will never, ever, ever be a Putin. Putin is the guy he wishes he was. He's calm, controlled, and calculating, and a criminal. Now he fights dirty, and he thinks that rules are for the suckers. But he also understands the value of being unnoticed so that no one will question your actions. It's actually how he rose in the Communist Party. Well, that and the fact that he became a spy. How better to hide than in spycraft? He got a law degree. It was enough to get him selected. He stayed in low-level jobs as an analyst, but he was collecting information that he would use later in his political career. He was gradually promoted as a loyal party member, but he had never sought the spotlight. He was fine with being the assistant to the assistant, because he'd learned two things early on. If a fight is inevitable, throw the first punch. And the guy who's the most powerful often isn't the one in front of the cameras. And that is what Putin sought more than the spotlight, was true power. And his mind your business, do your work, keep your head down way of running his schemes worked perfectly. Because when Boris Yeltsin needed to find a way to get out of the scrape he'd gotten himself into with his war crimes in Chechnya, he looked at this quiet man with all the secrets and he thought, that guy's gonna save my ass. He's so loyal to the party that he wouldn't put me in prison. And, true to his word, Putin didn't. But getting him to accept the role was a little more of a volunteer than a volunteer. Oh yeah, Putin wanted the power, but this just wasn't his way of working. It didn't feel like him. Now, that didn't stop him for long, and he learned the rules of the road pretty quickly. And then he started consolidating his power. And for the people of Russia, who'd never had much freedom, but it had lots of persecution and chaos, his quiet, controlled, calculating corruption seemed like an okay trade. After all, he wasn't gonna mess with their personal lives. And really, his targets were the oligarchs, because it became very obvious that Putin didn't care about corruption, as long as it was corruption that was under his control. Sure, the Russian people lost some civil liberties, and they knew that their government was lying to them. But the economic instability and the political chaos had come to an end. So basically, things were back to the status quo. And if you were Putin's enemy, no matter how rich you were going to come to a sticky end. at some time. Now, Putin's oligarchs got all the government contracts and more political influence, and they were loyal to him for obvious reasons. But nobody was telling him what was really going on in his country. And as he needed less and less of the trappings of a normal leader and started taking on the mantle of president for life, the less he started actually finding out what his people wanted or thought of him. This caused a problem in Ukraine. And it's the reason why that tiny country has been winning against incredible odds. Now, I told you that Putin didn't care about corruption, and it came back to bite him in the ass really hard, because his military was woefully unprepared, woefully underarmed, and completely disorganized. But not even the Russian administrators and military officials knew that, because you don't tell a dictator what they don't want to hear. Even his threats of nuclear warming are empty, because ever since the economic sanctions years ago, he hasn't been able to get the materials or technicians. But it's the only threat he has left. But now, as he's losing his grip on power, ironically, Trump is looking to him as a model for how to run a country. Trump's ignorance and narcissism, they're going to cause America pain. But we aren't like Russians. We don't accept unacceptable alternatives. We build institutions to defeat and prevent kings. You have barely begun to see what people will do to protect their democracies. Our founding fathers didn't start this country. So some idiot with a too big opinion of himself could come in and crap all over it. We've handled the British Empire and the Nazis and the fascists. I think we can handle an orange buffoon. And Putin, if he thinks of him at all, thinks of him as an incredible embarrassment, but an awesome stooge. And any one of you who thinks that Trump is taken seriously by that man, you are living in a dream world.